Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Marion County Hardball. As always, I want to remind everybody that we welcome anybody who is running from any party to come on Marion County Hardball and be interviewed, as well as any sitting officials in Marion County. We would love to have you. And I would also remind everybody, Rourke is unpaid. He does this as a volunteer. But if you'd like to support what we do and support Marion County Messenger, there's a link at the top of the page. You can go and make a donation, a one-time donation, or you can send us some stars. And Facebook, those stars are donations. And with that, we're interviewing Jeff Story tonight, who is a candidate for the county commission. And I am going to hand off to Rourke.
Thank you, Duke. Well, Jeff, thank you for running. It's a big deal. I think every candidate that is willing to put their everything out there, I admire them. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. But you have an announcement. Would you go ahead and tell the audience what you're up to?
You know, my dad taught me to look everyone in the eye when you're talking to them, so I'm going to look into this camera and tell you I'm Jeff Story. I'm running for County Commissioner, District 1, Seat C. That is the South Pittsburgh, Orme, New Hope, South Pittsburgh Mountain, and a portion of Sweden's Cove.
Now, who's running against you?
In the primary, it'll be Jimmy Haley Jr. In the general, it will be Samantha Rector.
Why don't you give us a little bit about your background?
My background, I've been a Republican all my life, and not looking for sympathy, but I want to explain why I believe in the Republican values. When I was in the Army, I was stationed at Fort Rucker, Alabama, and my wife gave birth to 2 twin boys. And they were premature. One lived 5 weeks and one lived 6 weeks. Now, that shaped me. One of the reasons I follow the Republican Party is my values align with the Republican Party. I believe that life begins at conception, because I seen those beautiful babies that were taken away, and it touched me. I also believe in smaller government, less taxes. Now, I'm not a politician, and I probably will not say everything correctly tonight.
You're doing fine.
But I am led by my faith. I've been a Christian for 56 years, got saved when I was 10 years old. Not always done right by the Lord. I'm just a sinner saved by the grace of God. And I praise Him tonight. And then there's my family. Oh, I love my family. Then there's my community. I met my wife 32 years ago, and I met her in Nashville. And on our first date, I asked her, "Where are you from?" And she told me, Hogjaw Valley. Well, I thought about going to the bathroom and sneaking out the back door. Hogjaw Valley. But it wasn't long after we started dating, I came to Marion County some 30 years ago. And I looked at the beauty this county holds. The mountains that surround us, the valleys, the quaint cities, and the people. This is really a southern town with southern hospitality. And I love Marion County. If I got a job making $1 million somewhere and I had to move to, let's just say, Minnesota, there's no way.
Hey, give us a little bit about, you've been here 30 years, so where did you work?
Well, I started out my young career in the restaurant business. Worked for you older folks will know what I'm talking about, but I worked with a restaurant called Po Folks. We are known for our fried chicken. But I spent 13 years with them and retired. They actually had a really good retirement program. Then I started Story Hospitality Inc., which was my company. I operated restaurants in Cookeville, Murfreesboro, and Nashville. Decided to get out of restaurant business, and my wife and I brought her home. This was her home. And I got a job at United States Gypsum in Bridgeport, Alabama. Worked there 23 years in management and retired from United States Gypsum. In all those jobs, I had fiscal responsibility, especially my own company. And I ran that company just like I run my household. If I didn't have the money, I didn't spend it. And I believe that's how our government should work.
Let me ask you, why are you running for commissioners?
Well, there's many reasons. I guess the first reason is I have prayed about it, and I feel like this is where the Lord wants me to be. I know that my Lord and Savior was a servant, had a servant heart, and I have a servant heart. I want to serve the community. Now, I go to county commission meetings and I see things that I'm uncomfortable with. And I'm not going to sit here with innuendos and hearsay, but I can tell you that I see things happening in our county commission that doesn't sit well with me. For example, violating somebody's First Amendment rights and having them removed from the meeting. That is not right. I see variances given to developers that a public citizen could not get as far as building codes or anything like that. I couldn't get that, but I'm seeing developers on these mountaintops get these variances. I also see commissioners bringing up an issue to talk about on the agenda and it being struck from the agenda, and the commissioner does not have an opportunity to introduce possibly an important proposition or legislation that needs to be voted on. I see our mayor always coming with a budget amendments. And I either think or have to assume that we're really poor at budgeting as a county government, or we're taking away from the citizens. If I'm going to move this money from this line item to this line item, what services are we cutting? Are we cutting services to fund these projects? I don't feel that our citizens are represented well on the county commissioner. Now, I'm not saying all commissioners, please don't read into that. But I feel like our mayor is driving the agenda, where I actually feel our commissioners who are listening to their constituents should be driving that agenda. And the commissioners should set themselves aside, listen to the citizens, and vote for the citizens.
So you're not seeing a separation of powers. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
So I would.
So what do you, in knowing what your position as your main responsibility is, you're a fiduciary, what will you do if you're elected, as far as how are you going to conduct yourself? How are you going to work with the other commissioners and with the mayor? What are the things that you're going to bring to the party, so to speak?
Well, in my experience in business and stuff, I have learned really good negotiation skills. Now, I've heard candidates say, I will not compromise, I will not compromise. And I do not believe that. I don't believe that in this position that through negotiations you couldn't compromise to help our citizens. And it all comes down to the citizens. I would speak up, I would challenge. I am not afraid. Look, I can't be bought. I am extremely comfortable in my retirement. I'm not rich. I'm not poor. But I'm content with what God has given me. Nobody can buy me. So one thing I promise is, as a sitting county commissioner, I will represent my people. I will give my people a voice by, I hate to say this, but bucking the system. A system that is flawed, in my opinion. That there's not a separation of powers when it comes. The mayor is in control of everything. From my perspective, sitting in the audience, we get a lot of all for, and everybody says, we get a lot of that, a whole lot during the meeting. Now, we have a couple commissioners that will challenge, and they are shunned because they ask questions. So I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
And I'm a grown man. Mm-hmm. I can handle that pressure to do the right thing.
So someone like, if the mayor comes to you and says, listen, Jeff, you play nice with me. I'll put you on a bunch of committees. I'm pretty sure I'll make sure you get confirmed. And if you play nice, like I said, you'll make $75 per committee meeting. Of course, you'll make the $150. That part, your vote's not for sale, is what I'm hearing you say.
My vote's not for sale. I don't think there's any place in our government for quid pro quo. I give you this if you do that. That will not happen to me. I actually think it's immoral and it violates my faith, my commitment to God.
Okay. Is there any questions coming from the outside? No. Not. Jeff, why don't you do a closing, and we'll wrap this up. This is an introductory,
sure,
where you're kind of getting the audience to know who you are, and I think you've done a great job.
Thank you.
So go ahead and close it up.
I spoke from the heart tonight, and that's really the only way I know how to speak. As I said in the opening, I am not a politician. I know what this district is comprised of, and I will represent the entire district. I had a young lady named Donna ask me, will you represent Richard City? And I said, of course I would. But that's just like Orem, New Hope. I see money given out, grants with the county, but rarely do I ever see it go to small communities, small towns. I'd like to change that. I'd like to represent District 1 and be a good steward of your tax money, and again, to be a voice for you.
Well, Jeff, thank you.
We have a question from Joy Blevins. Currently, some commissioners don't have their phone numbers available on the county website. If elected, will you make your phone number available so citizens can readily contact you?
Absolutely. I want to be available. And I had a parent call me, and I'm not even elected yet, but he called me and was real concerned about something his daughter was learning in school. And it was a teacher who was teaching his political views about current affairs. And I took that phone call, I talked to Dr. Griffith, and hopefully this is going to be handled. That's the kind of commitment I will make to my constituents, that they will have my phone number and I will be available to them.
Outstanding. Well, Duke?
I think that's a great interview. We'll wrap that up.
Thank you.
And if you folks will give us just a moment, we're going to switch out microphones. And we're going to bring Tom Hudson on the set. And Tom is running for Marion County Mayor. While we get the mic switched out and get Tom over there, I want to remind you again, if you'd like to support the work that Marion County Messenger is doing, there is a place at the top of the Facebook page. You can go and become a sponsor. You can also click on the stars and send us some stars. Again, this is not money that's going to Rurik. This is going to the Marion County Messenger. Rurik is a volunteer. And we are fitting Tom with a lapel mic right now. And as soon as we get him wired for sound, we will start the interview. Rurik, take it away.
Mr. Hudson.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for running. I mean, you're really going for the big job.
Yes.
So we appreciate what you're doing. Would you like to give an opening and let everyone know what you're up to?
Yeah.
But please don't forget. Make sure that the audience knows your background.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
You know, and that good stuff. So please.
All right. My name's Tom Hudson. I went to Whitwell High School. I got a diploma. 4-year degree in electrical engineering, and my postgraduate work was at MIT and some other places. A lot of my background is in business and business management. So I've had money in banking, finance, accounting, economics, management courses throughout my career at Intel Corporation. For a long time I did teaching. And I taught at Richard Hardy School for just a short amount of time, and then I taught 5 years at Chattanooga State. And I see our students coming to college with not everything they need to be able to compete at that level, kind of a thing. And so I think that's a big deal thing. As far as my background goes, I do what I do every morning, and I ask myself, is this the right thing to do? Because if you're always doing the right things, people will stick with you. When they find you doing something like, well, this is about me, don't worry about it, I'll take care of me. People don't want that. I said tonight to Mr. Hudson here, I hate politicians. They'll promise you anything in the world. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then when they get elected, they forget you. Oh, I didn't really say that. I didn't mean that. I'm sick of hearing the happy talk from a politician. So I'm going to do something tonight, right now, and it'll probably get me shot or dynamited out of my house. I worked with Greg Steele at Jasper First Baptist, and Greg and I are working on a thing, especially Greg, that he's going to put together what we call a benevolent fund. And that's every pastor, regardless of what their denomination is, Methodist, Presbyterian, they're going to have an opportunity to participate in this benevolent fund. So we'll have pastors in front of people every Sunday from all the way from Whitwell all the way down to Orem, from Monteagle to Riverside. And then we'll be able, if there's problems or people hurting in the community, you'll have a chance to see that as best you can. In order to fund this benevolent fund, I'd like to challenge all of the other people running for mayor. Mr. Jackson, I'd like to challenge Travis Lane, Mr. Montague. I will donate 100% of everything I'm paid by Marion County to the benevolence fund. The county don't need another person sitting in an office getting $100,000. So why don't we give it, let's do the right thing and give it where it needs to be, to the people who need it the most. And I'm telling you this, I made this promise. If they don't make it, you might want to ask yourself, why are they running? Do they want the money or do they care about the people? You got to do what you got to do. All right. I'm sorry, my next question.
That's
That's
fantastic.
pretty significant. Yes.
Yeah, I'm speechless, and I like that.
I've never seen Rurik speechless, but
But
We should do this more often.
yeah. Well, Tom, that's incredibly generous, and I love it. I absolutely love it. But let's kind of dive into some of the things that you see that's going on. I think we've had some conversations. Matter of fact, not you and I necessarily, but in a group the setting we had this morning, where we were talking about the lack of solidarity right now, where we have neighbors against neighbors. We have valley people that are against folks that are up on the mountain. I know that it's unfair to ask you how you fix that, but I guess from where you're at right now, what are you seeing that's going on?
Okay. The number one thing you have to understand is you're talking about two completely different sets of people. The people up on the mountain are generally urban people. They're generally older and they're affluent. All right? So they have this view of the world. You talk to them and they have one. People down in the valley, at least the family that I grew up with, they're working class people. They have kids they got to take care of, and they struggle to make their bills. They have a different view of the world. And when you have those two people together, they don't see the world the same way. As I gave before, people up on the mountains have chosen to live in a community where they have a homeowners association. They feel comfortable that they can tell their neighbors what to do with their house and their land. Folks down in the valley, the folks I grow up with, they don't feel comfortable about that at all. They say, no, I don't want somebody telling me where I can do what I have. I personally own a donkey and my neighbor hears it. I sure hope they don't complain to the county commission about me. But let's say this, how are you going to fix that? How do you bring that set of people apart? Those are so different people. One of the things I think you got to do, and the thing that gets people, is you'll hear this community, you'll hear these comments, and they'll say, well, when we get control, we're going to make them do blah, blah, blah. We're going to have zoning regulations. We're going to do this. And as long as you have a government that can force people to do things against their will, you're going to have commissions where they don't want you to get them and this one don't want you this. I heard a guy tell me just today, he said, well, we ought to force people with those empty buildings. They should just either fix them or give them away or be repossessed by the government. I thought, I'm going to tell you about a guy named Mr. Williams. He used to sell against appliances in Jasper. And Lowe's come in here and they started selling them. Mr. Williams couldn't make a living in that building anymore. He had to close the doors. Now he worked for Lowe's for years. If you were at Lowe's, you went out and seen Mr. Williams. But are we going to have the government make him give that because Lowe's put him out of business? I don't want that government. I don't want a government of people who think like that. So my idea, if you want to bring people together, make it where it's not life or death. Do what you can. Treat people decent, act like a human being, and quit thinking it's us and them. I got bad news for us. They're not going to bulldoze those houses down. They're not going away. They're going to be there. And if you want to make enemies out of people, then they will be here. We don't need enemies, right? I don't need an enemy. I've got enough of that already. Let's just try and fix how we do, and we do that by fixing our government. We can't see, they look at us and they say, well, those people just steal money. Always money missing. There's money missing at the library. There's money missing at, really? So they look at us as like these sort of backwoods hicks that are just looking to steal money and we're not smart enough to catch on. We look at them as a bunch of grasping. Stop. Let's just do the right thing and start getting our hands around our government.
Describe for me freedom.
The trouble with freedom is I can do whatever I want with my house, but so can Jeff Story. And I might not like what Jeff Story's doing with his life. Guess what, guys? It's his house, not mine.
And
that's for me.
And that's part of the problem, I think. We have to let people live. I mean, that old cliche about don't be minding my business, I won't be minding yours. And I understand not everyone wants to live on a golf course.
Or in a chicken house.
Or in a chicken...
That's okay.
No, that's a great point. What do you think that... I've seen, or I've read, that respect is a problem. That either one group is not respecting the other group. And do you think that some of that lack of respect is potentially coming from our elected officials?
So you want me to get into what I think our elected officials are being...
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go that way.
And I said something, and some folks of us laughed and something, and I don't really mean it, but I said it to him anyway. I have sat down with our current county mayor, and I've talked to him, or tried to talk to him 2 or 3 times over the football game. And I said something to him, just sort of joking. I said, David, I played basketball against you in high school. He played at Jasper, and I played at Whitwell, kind of thing. And I said something to him, I want to see how he acts. Is he going to treat me with respect and dignity, or is he going to say something nasty? And I said, David, you weren't no good then, and you ain't no good now. And he said, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, and blah, blah, blah. And he was nice. He was really nice about it. David's always treated me kind. My Uncle Paul, who worked for him at Lodges, says exactly the opposite thing. So is a nice person or not? You need to be that way all day, every day. You can't be that way just when there's time to make money.
So am I hearing this right, that treating every citizen in this county, regardless of who they are and where they're from, you treat them like a citizen? Like a customer.
Sir.
We have a question from the audience. Donna Mayfield, describe freedom of speech and how that works with the newspaper. And now, why would some go after those very things?
Great question.
Great question. Why people go after freedom of speech is they don't want to argue with you on the facts. They want to get you to shut up. And that's what I think. And some people also in the newspaper want to write things that simply aren't true. And they're noticeably not true. So what do you need to do in that case? You have to be able to understand what's wrong and say what's right. See, just because I read something and they say, oh, you know that guy Rurik, he's a no good so-and-so. I got to argue with him. Oh, yes, he is a good so-and-so. You know, he's okay. If you just let people tell you things in that, freedom of speech doesn't work anymore when people can lie and steal and cheat, and there's no pride and there's no shame.
Can you give me the definition of democracy and the definition of constitutional republic?
So a democracy is when 51 people can make 49 people do something they don't want to do. That's a democracy, all right? On the other hand, a constitutional republic is we're going to play Monopoly. We set up the rules ahead of time, and then we live by those rules. As an example, during our constitutional was being formed, we had to write 10 amendments to our Constitution to get people to sign on to it. They weren't going to sign on to it. And those 10 amendments are not to give us right. They're not our Bill of Rights. They limit the government to what they do. They say the government can't make a law outlawing free speech. The government can't make a law in reference to firearms. You have to have a warrant, all right? But my favorite amendment out of all the 10th amendments is the one that says, specifically, if we haven't given the government the right to do this, those rights belong to the states or to the people.
Now, I've been asked to share a comment by Tony Mangiamelli.
Tony!
Never said that, Tom. Come on now, tell the truth.
So what is it he didn't say?
The comment that was said was people would love to see downtown South Pittsburgh and Jasper thrive. What would help to do that is to get the owners that are just letting their units just rot away to get them to fix them up and rent them out. That way South Pittsburgh can get more sales tax so they can lower their taxes. Duke, please repeat that for me.
So let me just say this. I have something on my phone. Tony and I had a discussion yesterday. He did say what he just said. He also said people need to poop or get off the pot. All right?
So it's getting back to the bigger question about, you know, what freedom looks like. And sometimes freedom doesn't look like what everyone wants it to look like. It might be someone that has yard art that you don't like, and hate to tell you, that's freedom. Let me ask you, what in your, do you want to continue on
one
that?
thing, freedom stops where your rights start. I can swing my arm as far as I want to until your nose is right there. So yard art, if I'm offending somebody with my yard art, let's say I want to put a Nazi cross in my yard art because I think that ain't right. So your freedom ends, it's your responsibility to make sure your freedom ends where somebody else's rights begin. I'm sorry.
What now, Mayor Hudson?
No, sir.
If Mayor Hudson, if this happens, what do you think will be your top priorities? Let's just say for the first 100 days.
For the first 100 days, I think the first thing to do is to try and get our house in order. All right? I believe the mayor has two responsibilities, and the first is a fiscal responsibility, right? You got to know where the money is, where it's going, and be able to, you can look and see. Accounting? Okay. I don't want to know that we didn't get this or that. The second thing the mayor needs to do is, like as a CEO, you need to appoint people to commissions and things, but make sure those people don't have a conflict of interest. Can I have somebody who has a conflict of interest, for example, in the planning commission? No. If you're going to have a conflict of interest, you need to do something else. We have a rule that says we don't allow teachers to be on the school board and vote for teacher raises. That's a conflict of interest. Is there anything else you would do? Yeah. The second thing I would do is when we start doing a county or a commission, let's not just have one line that says, oh, let's have a talk about ducks on the pond. Does that mean anything to all y'all? I don't either. I read what we read in these county commissions, and I don't know what they're going to talk about. And then somebody says, oh, strike that from the agenda. I don't know what was struck. I don't know what was talked about. You were there. Yeah. What did that mean? You need to start letting people know what's going on, and I'm adamant about that. Open government is the key. That's how you get rid of any of this double dealing, any of the problems that we're having now. If you can see, if I know what you're doing, then I can tell what's going on. I got another one.
I got comments on two different phones here.
I'm sorry.
We have one comment by Lynn Williams. I think it's actually in reference to Tony's comment. Mm-hmm. So just because you own a piece of property or a building, it doesn't mean they have the funds to bring it up to someone else's standard.
Thank you.
The second is, this is a question from Joy. What is your opinion on expanding hangars at the airport? Do you think that they need to be expanded, or is what they have sufficient now?
You know, a lot of times as a manager, I can't tell you ahead of time what that decision's going to do. Do you want jet airplanes at the airport? A longer runway, a lot of noise. That's not for the mayor to know. You need to go in front of your county commissioners, and we used to use something that's called time, people, and money. How much time does it take? Do we have to hire more people to do that thing? And how much money does it cost? Once you have those things well defined, then you need to go to the commissioners. Those are the guys who are representing their people in the district. They need to decide, do we need more hangars or not? Now, if it's a public company, that's their business. Remember, their rights stop where my nose starts.
What in your mind, and you're the CFO,
Chief Financial Officer.
Right. Who's the CEO?
It's the same job. The Chief Executive Officer. The mayor has to do both. He has to be able to do the accounting. I think actually the state says he's the head chief accountant. Okay, that's fine. You got to keep the stuff. But the CEOs, who's going to appoint people to this? Who's going to have information? So you do both. It's one person, it's the mayor. But does that mean the mayor acts in a little, this is me and mine? No. I need to hear these things. I heard things today at a meeting that I went to. I talked to a lady who's a fire chief, and she said, this is how you go about this. I'm meeting with the fire chiefs on Saturday at West Valley, with Sequatchie, as many of them as we can. We need to hear all those points of interest. You can't just be, I'm the CEO and I'll just do it my way. It's not. It's not your way. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't have a whole lot of involvement in it. I'm here to tell you things, to give you the information, and let the commissioners make the decisions for the county.
What would you be willing to do for our youth? Because there's nothing for them to do. That's from Laura Rogers.
Okay, I coached Pee Wee football. I've coached girls softball kind of thing. I think that's one of the best things we do is with the sports programs up and down the valley. And because you go to those and those are well attended. You see daddies, grandpas, aunts, uncles. People come to those and that involves the community. The second thing is some kids don't want to play sports. So you need to find some other activities. We have 4-H clubs. We have other kinds of clubs. I think for a while there we had a fishing club. And they used to win. I was proud of them boys. They go down there and win that fishing tournament. You remember that? That was something, wasn't it? I'm proud of my boys when they go out and they do. Sorry.
The relationship that you'll have with the commissioners, so you don't overstep. Well, let me take a step back. Define for me separation of powers and why. Why do we have a separation of powers?
You can't allow power to aggregate in one single area. If you do that, and let's say that as a county mayor, I can make commissioners do things, then what's to stop me from sticking my arm out and maybe somebody puts a little money in it and who cares? You have to have that separation of powers because that makes sure that everybody gets a chance to hear. As a mayor, it's not my job to make decisions for these people. It's my job to give information to these people. God bless them. We elected them. We're going to put them in there. There's 3 from your district. There's 3 from number 5 up in Whitwell. Those people need to be responsible to their constituents. The mayor needs to be responsible with telling them what's going on, what's happening.
You like the idea that the mayor has veto power?
Depends on what you want to talk about, veto power.
Well, being that you have our 5 districts and we have 3 commissioners per district.
15.
Would you say that those 5 districts and all those commissioners are the will of the people? They're the voice of the people to you.
Yes.
So unless it's some absolutely crazy thing, you still have the power to veto what the commission wants to do.
First for me, wait. Define what some crazy thing is. Because we're talking about a hypothetical right now. And unless I can know what some...
Okay, I will.
Okay.
We have this issue inside of South Pittsburgh right now where people are up in arms about a development that potentially hasn't, I don't believe it's sold, so I don't want to alarm anybody. I think it's Sleepy Hollow Vista?
Yeah.
Happy Hollow, yeah.
Sleepy sounds pretty good, but...
about now.
So we have this development. The city of South Pittsburgh, if the people overwhelmingly doesn't want this, the city and each city inside Marion County has special powers where they can curtail it. So the example that I'm going to use, or the use case, was with the existing mayor that we have for the county that vetoed the Special Powers Act, giving the same type, the identical authority to the county commission to be able to make sure that, let's say, a chicken plant, poultry plant was coming in, and because obviously we have no zoning, this community is here and they're screaming to their commissioners saying, we don't want to have chicken smell from one end of the valley to the next, and we're right next to it. Now, we don't have any tools as the commission to stop that right now, like a city does. So that's what I'm referring to
So
as far as
in
veto.
order, and the Special Powers Act gives the county government a chance to keep commercial enterprises from expanding or doing something in this valley. But you cannot have that when you don't have good, honest government. You can't put more power into the hands of people that have already showed you they don't have your best interest at heart.
I guess the bigger question is, so what do you do when, as Mayor Hudson, you get telephone call after telephone call about a quarry that's going right next to a development?
So let's say that we're going to put a paper plant in your district, right? Now I've heard that, and Jeff's getting lots of calls, kind of thing. We've got to make sure, remember I said time, people, and money. You got to stand up in front of that council and say, this is what I'm hearing from the people in the area that are going to be affected by that. Remember, you got to be able to tell people, I'm going to take care of where your nose begins, all right? If they want to put a paper plant and his people don't want it, our council needs to understand that. Can our council stop that? I don't know the law.
They can't.
Yeah, then what's different? How is it that we have all these things without any ability to change it? Then that's the thing we need to deal with, right?
Well, I mean, I love what you're saying, okay? But to me, the reality is if you don't have the tools to work with, you have nothing to stop it with.
What tool would you use? What power would you give the county government?
The exact same power that the cities have, the Special Powers Act.
Okay.
That was why that was presented. It wasn't presented to stop people from having chickens. It wasn't designed to stop people from, well, number one, chickens is agriculture.
Well,
two, no agricultural enterprises.
Right,
even,
right,
and you're
Farm Act,
aware of
yeah.
this. Yeah.
But the first thing you got to do is you got to distinguish clearly between commercial enterprises and residential people and the farmers. Those are different enterprises completely. If there's a commercial enterprise for profit that wants to do something, let's say let's pollute the Squatchy River, right? Then that needs to be stopped. But that has to be stopped in the council. The mayor needs to make sure the world knows about it. And there's some things you can't do in the United States of America. Thank you for the Democrats. I'll say that for Mr. Hudson here. We have rules and regulations. We have a TDEC, and I've heard all kinds of stories about, well, that one's crooked and that one's bad and this one's that. We got to put our good people hearts on and start saying, are we going to allow a paper mill to go in that area? And then I want somebody to stand up in that council meeting and say, well, this is why I think we should get it. And there's a pro and a con to everything you're going to hear. You're going to hear a pro. It brings jobs. Paper's money. The second con you're going to hear is, but I cannot walk outside of my house. It stinks. It pollutes the land and it destroys the forest. Then the commissioners of their own heart, based on their constituents, have to make the decision they believe in. But I want that decision recorded, and I want them to have to stand beside it. Okay, if you chose for a 5,000 house development with no infrastructure whatsoever, this one we're talking about, tell people you did that. Seriously, go back up to Ingalls in District 3 and said, yeah, I voted for that. Because that's this government, we run into people every day. Sir.
So this is my question.
Uh-oh.
Okay. I've been asking everybody else's questions tonight. I'm going to ask one. I feel like we get awfully hung up on bringing in, like, say for instance, we'll pick on paper plant jobs in a world that is increasingly high tech.
Okay.
And that we're not really preparing, and I realize that we can't materialize high tech jobs overnight in one administration. But I also feel like we're not doing anything to prepare to be able to do that in the future. And the difference is those high-tech jobs pay a lot more money than the paper mill jobs.
Okay. So I was the technology development manager for Intel. We developed all the technologies going into all the new Intel products as we went from 486, little ones, all the way up to Pentiums and above that. in that position, the one thing you have to have, if you want high-tech jobs, the first thing you have to have is people with high-tech skills. You've got to start building that at high school or before. And if you want that, then you have to do that. And it's nice to talk about we want high-tech jobs, but if they look and they say, well, I don't have an engineering group that I can use to make my product. We had a problem when we first started computers, whether you use an extruded aluminum heat sink or did you use a cast aluminum heat sink. You got to know which one of those works better and which one of those costs the most. Because it's okay to have an engineering solution, but if it costs so much money, it ain't no good for anybody. So when you start doing that, then the people you need to tech or train need to have to be able to understand it's not about me, it's about the best solution overall. Right? And high-tech people have to do that. Right? We're getting something done here in Bridgeport, Stevenson area, kind of a thing. Why did they come here? I'm asking you a question.
I don't know.
Yeah? Does anybody know?
We're interviewing you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not the way this works.
My understanding is that they found that they could do things here with local county governments that they might not be able to do in, say, Santa Clara, California. All right? So first off, you have to have the people. Second off, you got to have a government that understands you're coming here with these restrictions. You can put a paper mill here, but I want to know that it don't smell, that you don't pollute, you don't do... All right, then that's the kind of job I want. A high-tech job, they have their problems too. We had to dig up our entire parking lot because we dumped carbon tetrachloride, which we use to clean things, in the parking lot. Well, it's the easiest way to dissolve it because it just evaporates. It's gone until you start testing the ground samples. All right? So at some point, with high tech comes its own set of problems. All right? Do we have the infrastructure in Marion County to deal with those problems?
Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
One of the things that they did, they invested heavily in their local schools. Heavily.
Yes, heavily.
So that they had a workforce to draw from. So as mayors, that's something you would try to promote, working with the school board. What would you do?
See, the first problem you get is, as the mayor, you don't control the budget of the school board. That is set by the state of Tennessee, and it has to do with attendance. Now, is there anything that the mayor can do to change the school board? I would have to, and I don't know the answer to this, but I would have to sit down at the school board meeting and ask that question. I have Phillips in church with me. Say, what are we doing with this? How's that working? If you start finding the problems, you're going to find it's either people who don't want to do something or people who have a vested interest into not. And as you get older, you kind of get settled in your ways a little bit. Are we doing that in our school board? I don't know the answer, but I do know we can get better at what we're doing. I think our schools did poorly, and we can do better.
I like the fact that and I know that you're on a time constraint, so you did say 30 minutes, so I didn't want to...
I didn't want to...
I mean, if you want to go further, we can.
No, these fine people have given us their home. Mrs. Hudson, fine, the other Miss Hudson, was very gracious and made coffee for us in this morning. Mm-hmm. Let's not impinge upon them.
As far as we have, okay, I'm in agreement. So in your closing statements, one thing I have heard you say to me that's really important is you're willing to the
that's easy for you.
Thank you.
The Benevolent Society, yeah.
Yeah, that you're offering, should you become mayor, your salary.
Yes.
To that, which I think is earth-shattering, fantastic.
I'm also challenging the other people running for mayor to make the same commitment.
Okay, so we've heard that that there is the challenge. The second thing that I'd like to make sure, Mr. Hudson, would you be willing, if we have another mayoral candidate that would like to debate on the program?
Absolutely.
You're
Absolutely
all about it.
No, I need to hear other people's, and I ask people, I want to hear other people's opinions. And I go out of my way to do that. When you're in a debate, they're going to say something to you you haven't thought about. Now you have to start thinking about how you approach the problem. It's a great thing. It's good for the people. It's good for the candidates. Let's bring them all in. Not at your house, I'm sorry, Mr. Hudson.
I'd like to, before Mr. Hudson does his closing, is to thank our contributor, Mr. Blevins, for his questions, and everyone else that's asking questions. This is fantastic that we're getting these questions. With that said, if you'd like to give your closing remarks, we'd definitely like to hear them.
I came to, my family's been in Marion County. I think if you look at Johnny Woodard, we're down in the cemetery next to the high school. And I came to Marion County at 17 years old as pretty much a lost child. I get emotional, but I needed Marion County so much more than they needed me. And people only do things for two reasons. It's love or money. And what Marion County did was save my life. I found my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, in this county right here. And I can't say thank you enough to the people of Marion County. And that's all I needed to say.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Before folks click off here, I'd like to grab the mic from Tom, and I'd like to speak.
Okay, but be nice.
I will be. I'm always nice. Need some help?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Tom, thank you for...
Oh, no, I'm
Thank you for coming on. Yes.
And you're still on the air, just so you know.
I'm on.
Yes, that's you.
Go over there. I'd like to get your seat.
Oh, he's coming at
Yeah, I want to speak. We've had some comments. I know you've seen them, Rick, from the Marion County Democratic Party about our platform and about the platform being biased. And the first thing that I would like to say is I challenge anybody. All of our interviews are on YouTube. I challenge anybody to pull a single interview off of YouTube and point out where we've been biased toward anybody. We've had folks on that we both agree with. We've had folks on that we both disagree with, and we've had it every way you can imagine it. We try to be fair with everybody. It was also stated that this was not a platform. This was actually just a vehicle for Rurick's campaign, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And I'll give you a little bit of history. This was something that I wanted to do. I was vice chair of the Democratic Party. Rurick was chairman of the Republican Party. And I actually wanted it to be a Democratic Party thing and had brought it up several times in the Democratic Party meetings, and nobody took me up on it. And Rurick kept coming to me, "Hey, Duke, I think it'd be a good idea if we had a Republican and a Democrat set up an interviewing platform." And I finally realized that the man was making some good sense. And so we got together and started doing this. And we discussed, I'm behind the camera. Somebody needs to be behind the camera. I think Rurick does an excellent job with the interviews.
Thank you.
Rurick has the experience of being on the county commission, which I think adds to it. And I don't feel, and I'll tell you something else. When we discuss these questions, it's always Rurick that says, you know what? Maybe we don't want to throw that at him today. Maybe that's a little bit too tough. So this may surprise some of you, but you actually want Rurick in that seat, not me. So I just wanted to answer that comment because I thought it was unfair. I don't think we've been unbiased. I don't think Rurick has used this in any way to further his campaign. And the Democrats are still invited to come on. We reach anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000 people when we do these interviews. Rurick, did we discuss how many people in Marion County vote?
I think we did. I think it was 15,000 registered voters.
No, it was 19,000.
19?
20,000? 20,000. Okay.
And Only 11%.
Only 11% vote.
Wow.
Yeah, out of that. But if we put you in front of 7,000 to 8,000 people,
It's a
to
big
me, whatever party you're a member of, it's worth it. And I don't think any other venue can do that. But we certainly don't have a lack of folks that want to come on. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood we're not a biased platform, and the Democratic Party is certainly welcome to come on. We could have Carrie Brewer on next Thursday night if she wanted to be on. Thank you so much for streaming. And again, if you support what we're doing, please go to the top of the page and click on the link and make a donation. And we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.